Maya always felt like she was watching life happen to everyone else, while other kids her age were busy making friends and going to parties. She preferred the safety of her bedroom. The walls were covered with posters of her favorite bands, and her desk was neat with perfectly arranged books and art supplies. This was her safe space, where she didn't have to worry about saying the wrong thing or feeling awkward. At 17, Maya had gotten really good at being invisible. She would walk through school hallways with her head down, earbuds in, avoiding eye contact with classmates. During lunch, she would sit alone in the library, pretending to read while actually watching other students laugh and chat easily with each other. She wondered what magic formula they knew that she didn't. Her older sister Priya was completely different, 2 years older and naturally outgoing. Priya seemed to make friends wherever she went. She was the kind of person who could strike up a conversation with anyone, from the grocery store cashier to the bus driver. Maya had always admired this about her sister, but it also made her feel even more different and alone. Their house sat on a quiet street lined with old oak trees. Maya's bedroom window faced the house next door, where an elderly woman had recently moved in. Maya had noticed the moving truck 3 weeks ago, but she hadn't paid much attention. New neighbors came and went, and Maya rarely interacted with any of them, but something unusual started happening. Every morning, as Maya got ready for school, she would notice Priya outside talking to the new neighbor over the wooden fence that separated their yards. At first, Maya thought it was just polite small talk, the kind of brief conversations neighbors have about weather or mail delivery. However, as days passed, these conversations grew longer. Maya found herself pausing her morning routine to watch from behind her bedroom curtains. She saw Priya gesturing animatedly, laughing at something the older woman said, and even helping carry grocery bags into the house next door. The neighbor appeared to be in her 70s. With silver hair that she kept in a neat bun, she moved slowly but had a warm smile that Maya could see even from her window. She wore colorful cardigans and seemed to have an endless supply of plants that she tended to in her small garden. What really caught Maya's attention was how different Priya seemed during these interactions. At home, Priya was often rushing around, stressed about college applications and part-time work. But with the neighbor, she appeared calm and genuinely interested in what the older woman had to say. One afternoon, Maya watched as Priya spent nearly 2 hours in the neighbor's backyard, helping plant flowers. They worked together quietly, occasionally pointing at different plants and nodding. Maya had never seen her sister so patient with any activity. Usually, Priya got bored quickly and moved on to something else. The next day, Maya noticed something even more surprising. Priya came home from the neighbor's house carrying a small container of what looked like homemade food. During dinner, Priya mentioned that Mrs. Chen, that was the neighbor's name, had taught her how to make dumplings from scratch. She's lived in so many interesting places. Priya told their parents enthusiastically. She was telling me about growing up in Taiwan and then moving to Canada before coming here. She has the most amazing stories. Maya felt a strange pang in her chest. When was the last time she had felt excited about talking to someone new? When had she ever learned something interesting from a conversation with a stranger? Over the following weeks, Maya became an accidental expert on her sister's friendship with Mrs. Chen. She watched from her window as Priya helped the older woman with various tasks around the house. She saw them sitting on the back porch, drinking tea and talking. 4 hours. She observed Priya carrying books back and forth between the houses, apparently sharing reading recommendations. Most remarkably, Maya noticed changes in her sister that went beyond these daily interactions. Priya seemed more relaxed at home. She was less likely to snap at their parents about small things. She started cooking more often, experimenting with recipes that Mrs. Chen had apparently shared with her. She even began talking about wanting to learn Chinese, something that had never interested her before. Maya found herself feeling envious, but also curious. What was it like to have that kind of connection with someone? How did conversations with strangers turn into genuine friendships? She had always assumed that social connections were something you either had a natural talent for, or you didn't, but watching Priya and Mrs. Chen together, Maya began to wonder if maybe friendship was something that could be learned, like riding a bike or cooking. Maybe there were skills involved that she simply hadn't figured out yet. The more Maya observed, the more questions filled her mind. What did they talk about for so long? How did Priya know what to say to keep conversations interesting? How did she make Mrs. Chen laugh so easily? Maya started paying closer attention to her sister's behavior at home too. She noticed that Priya had become a better listener during family dinners, asking their parents follow-up questions about their day. Instead of just waiting for her turn to talk, she seemed more confident, but also more considerate of others. One evening, Maya realized she had been watching the neighbor's house for almost an hour, hoping to catch a glimpse of Priya and Mrs. Chen's interaction. This made her feel both silly and sad. Instead of living her own life, she was becoming obsessed with watching someone else's friendship. But she couldn't help herself. There was something magical about what she was witnessing. For the first time in her life, Maya saw a clear example of how human connection could actually work. It wasn't the loud, overwhelming social situation she feared at school. It was quiet, consistent, and based on genuine care for another person. As she continued to watch day after day, Maya began to feel something she hadn't experienced in years: hope. Maybe she could learn to do this too. 3 weeks had passed since Maya first noticed her sister's friendship with Mrs. Chen, and the changes in Priya were becoming impossible to ignore. Maya had been watching, thinking, and building up courage for what felt like forever. Every day, she planned to ask her sister about this mysterious connection, but every day, the words got stuck in her throat. Tonight was different though. The whole family was gathered around their old wooden dining table, sharing a meal that Priya had actually cooked herself. It was some kind of soup with vegetables and noodles that smelled absolutely delicious. Maya had been surprised when Priya announced she was making dinner, since her sister usually preferred ordering pizza or making simple sandwiches. "This is really good, honey," their mother said, taking another spoonful of the soup. "Where did you learn to make this?" Priya smiled in a way that Maya had never seen before. It was gentle and almost secretive. "Mrs. Chen taught me. She said it's a recipe her grandmother used to make in Taiwan." Their father looked up from his bowl with interest. "You've been spending a lot of time with our new neighbor lately." "Yeah, she's really cool," Priya replied, but there was something deeper in her voice. "She's taught me so much about cooking and gardening and just life, I guess." Maya felt her heart beating faster. This was her chance. She had been rehearsing different ways to ask her question, but now that the moment was here, all her prepared words seemed to vanish. She looked down at her soup, then back at her sister, then at her parents. "Sister," Maya said quietly, her voice barely loud enough for everyone to hear. The word came out strangely, more formal than how she usually talked to Priya. "You really bonded with a human?" The question hung in the air like a balloon that nobody knew how to catch. Maya immediately realized how weird it sounded. She had meant to ask something normal, like "How did you become friends with Mrs. Chen?" But instead, she had spoken like human connection was some kind of scientific experiment she was trying to understand. Priya put down her spoon and looked at her younger sister with genuine surprise. "What do you mean, Maya?" Maya's cheeks turned red. She could feel her parents staring at her, probably wondering what was wrong with their daughter. But she had already started this conversation, and something inside her refused to back down now. "I mean," Maya struggled to find the right words, "I watch you with Mrs. Chen from my window." Not in a creepy way, she added quickly, "But I see how you guys talk and laugh together. You seem so happy when you're with her, and I don't understand how that happens." Her father, who worked as a software engineer and was used to breaking down complex problems into simple steps, leaned forward slightly. "Maya, are you asking how friendships work?" "I guess so," Maya said, her voice getting even quieter. "I mean, you just met a few weeks ago, and now you're like best friends. How does that even happen?" What do you talk about? How do you know what to say? The room fell silent except for the soft ticking of the wall clock. Maya's mother and father exchanged a look that she recognized. It was the same look they gave each other when they were worried about her but didn't want to make her feel bad. Priya set down her napkin and turned her whole body toward Maya. Are you okay? You seem like something's been bothering you. Maya felt tears starting to form in her eyes, but she blinked them back. Can I try to? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Can you try what? Priya asked gently. Bonding with someone. Making a friend. Like a real friend. Maya's voice cracked a little on the last word. I watch you and Mrs. Chen, and you make it look so easy. But I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to talk to people without feeling scared or stupid. Their mother reached over and placed her hand on Maya's arm. Sweetheart, we didn't realize you were feeling lonely. I'm not lonely, Maya said quickly, then paused. Well, maybe I am. I don't know. I just see how happy Priya looks when she comes back from talking with Mrs. Chen, and I want to feel that way too. But I don't know how. Their father cleared his throat. Maya, there's nothing wrong with asking for help with social skills. Some people find it easier than others, but everyone can learn. Really? Maya asked, looking up at him with hope in her eyes. Really? He confirmed. Even I had to learn how to talk to people when I started working in teams at my job. It's not always natural for everyone. Priya moved her chair closer to Maya's. You know what? Mrs. Chen would probably love to meet you. She's always asking about my family, and she has this way of making people feel comfortable. She's not like the kids at school who judge you for being quiet. Maya felt a flutter of panic mixed with excitement. But what if I don't know what to say to her? What if I just sit there awkwardly? Then you sit there awkwardly, Priya said with a small laugh. Mrs. Chen doesn't mind quiet moments. She says some of the best conversations happen when people feel comfortable enough to be silent together. Their mother nodded. Maybe we could all visit her together sometime. Would that feel less scary? Maya thought about this for a moment. The idea of meeting Mrs. Chen still felt terrifying, but maybe having her whole family there would make it easier. And she had been watching their interactions for weeks now. She knew that Mrs. Chen was patient and kind. Okay, Maya said finally. But what if I mess it up? What if I say something wrong? Then you say something wrong, Priya said simply. Mrs. Chen has lived for 73 years. She's heard people say wrong things before. She's probably said wrong things herself. For the first time in weeks, Maya felt a small smile cross her face. You think she would actually want to meet me? I know she would, Priya said confidently. She's always telling me that young people today don't visit elderly people enough. She would be thrilled to have another person to talk to. Their father leaned back in his chair. You know, Maya, the fact that you're asking these questions shows you're already thinking about how to connect with people. That's actually a really good first step. Maya looked around the table at her family, feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't quite confidence, but it was something like hope mixed with determination. For the first time, connecting with another person seemed like something she might actually be able to learn how to do. So when can we visit? Maya asked, surprising herself with her own boldness. Priya grinned. How about this weekend? Saturday afternoon arrived faster than Maya had expected. All week, she had been both excited and terrified about meeting Mrs. Chen properly. She had changed her outfit 3 times, practiced conversation starters in the mirror, and even Googled how to talk to elderly people on her phone. When the time came, Maya's whole family walked over to Mrs. Chen's house together. The front yard was filled with colorful flowers that seemed to dance in the gentle breeze. Maya noticed wind chimes hanging from the porch that made soft, peaceful sounds. Mrs. Chen opened the door before they even knocked, as if she had been watching for them. She was shorter than Maya had expected, with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled. She wore a bright purple cardigan over a simple dress, and her silver hair was braided into a neat crown around her head. You must be Maya, Mrs. Chen said warmly, looking directly at her. Priya has told me so much about you. She says you love to draw. Maya felt her cheeks turn red. She hadn't expected Mrs. Chen to know anything about her, and she definitely hadn't expected to be the center of attention right away. Yes, she managed to say. I like art. Wonderful, Mrs. Chen said, clapping her hands together. I have something to show you in my garden. But first, would you like some tea? I made some cookies this morning. Maya's parents chatted with Mrs. Chen while she served everyone tea and homemade cookies that tasted like butter and vanilla. Maya mostly listened, noticing how Mrs. Chen asked questions that made people want to keep talking. She didn't just ask how was your week. Instead, she asked things like what was the most interesting thing that happened to you this week. After about 20 minutes, Mrs. Chen stood up and looked at Maya. Would you like to see my garden? I could use some help with the watering. Maya's heart started beating faster. This was it, her first real test. She looked at Priya, who gave her an encouraging nod. Okay, Maya said quietly. Mrs. Chen led her outside to the backyard, where Maya discovered a small but beautiful garden filled with vegetables, herbs, and flowers. Everything was organized but not perfect, like it had been cared for by someone who loved it rather than someone trying to impress anybody. Here, Mrs. Chen said, handing Maya a green watering can. The plants need gentle care. Just like friendships, Maya took the watering can and started watering the tomato plants. She expected Mrs. Chen to fill the silence with conversation, but instead, the older woman worked quietly beside her, pulling small weeds and checking the soil around different plants. The quiet felt comfortable instead of awkward. Maya found herself relaxing for the first time since they had arrived. After a few minutes, she gathered enough courage to ask a question. How do you know how much water to give each plant? Mrs. Chen smiled and touched the soil around a small pepper plant. You watch them carefully. Some plants need more water, some need less. Some like morning sun, others prefer afternoon shade. Each one is different. Maya nodded. Thinking about this, it seemed like Mrs. Chen was talking about more than just plants. People are the same way, Mrs. Chen continued, as if she could read Maya's thoughts. Some people need lots of conversation to feel comfortable. Others, like you, prefer to listen first and speak when they have something meaningful to say. Is that okay? Maya asked, being quiet. Of course it's okay, Mrs. Chen said firmly. Some of my best friends have been quiet people. They notice things that others miss. They think before they speak. The world needs people like that. Maya felt something warm spread through her chest. No one had ever told her that being quiet could be a good thing before. They worked in the garden for another hour, and Maya found herself asking more questions. She learned that Mrs. Chen had started this garden when she moved in because she missed the one she had at her previous house. She learned that Mrs. Chen had taught elementary school for 30 years, and that she had always loved working with shy children. I was very shy when I was your age, Mrs. Chen said, sitting down on a small bench and patting the space beside her. I came to America when I was 22, and I didn't know anyone. I was so scared to speak English because I thought people would judge my accent. Maya sat down beside her. What did you do? I started small, Mrs. Chen said. I would practice saying good morning to my neighbors. Then I joined a community gardening group where I didn't have to talk much at first. I could just work with my hands while listening to others. Did it get easier? Eventually, yes. But not because I stopped being shy. I'm still shy sometimes, especially around new people. It got easier because I learned that most people are kind if you give them a chance. And I learned that being quiet doesn't mean you have nothing to offer. Maya thought about this. But how do you know what to say when you do want to talk? Mrs. Chen picked up a small gardening tool and showed Maya how to check if the soil was too dry or too wet. You ask questions about things you're genuinely curious about. You listen to the answers. You share little bits about yourself when it feels natural. Like what? Well, right now, you're asking me questions about gardening because you're interested in learning. That's a perfect conversation. You're not trying to impress me or say the right thing. You're just being curious. Maya realized that Mrs. Chen was right. For the past hour, She had been having a real conversation without even thinking about it. She had been so focused on learning about the plants that she had forgotten to be nervous. "Can I ask you something else?" Maya said. "Of course." "How did you and Priya become friends so quickly? Like, what did you talk about the first time you met?" Mrs. Chen laughed softly. "Actually, we didn't talk much at all the first time. She was rushing to her car, and I was struggling to carry my groceries inside. She helped me, and I offered her a cookie to say thank you. We probably only said 10 words to each other. Really. The friendship grew slowly, over many small conversations. She would wave when she saw me in the garden. I would ask how school was going. She would tell me about a book she was reading. I would share a recipe, little by little. We got to know each other. Maya felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had been imagining that friendship required some kind of magical instant connection. But Mrs. Chen was describing something much more manageable. "The secret," Mrs. Chen said, standing up and brushing soil off her hands, "is consistency and kindness. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up and care about the other person." As they walked back toward the house, Maya felt different than she had when they arrived. She wasn't completely confident yet, but she felt like she had learned something important. Maybe making friends wasn't about being the most interesting person in the room. Maybe it was about being genuinely interested in other people. "Mrs. Chen," Maya said as they reached the back door. "Yes, dear? Thank you for teaching me about the plants and other things." Mrs. Chen smiled and patted Maya's shoulder gently. "Thank you for being such a good student. Same time next week." Maya nodded, surprising herself. "Yes, I'd like that." The weeks following Maya's first garden session with Mrs. Chen felt like a completely different life. For the first time in years, Maya actually looked forward to something beyond the safety of her bedroom every Saturday. She would help Mrs. Chen tend to the garden, and slowly, she started applying what she learned to other parts of her life. The first place Maya decided to test her new skills was at school. Instead of rushing through the hallways with her head down, she started making eye contact with classmates and saying simple greetings. It felt terrifying at first, but she remembered Mrs. Chen's words about starting small and being consistent. "Good morning, Katie," she said to a girl in her history class one Tuesday. Katie looked surprised but smiled back and returned the greeting. It was such a small interaction, but Maya felt proud of herself for the entire day. Encouraged by this tiny success, Maya began participating more in class discussions. She discovered that asking genuine questions was easier than trying to sound smart when her English teacher was discussing a novel instead of staying silent. Maya raised her hand and asked, "Why do you think the author made the main character so young?" The teacher's face lit up, and several other students joined the conversation. Mrs. Chen had been right about curiosity being the key to connection. Maya found that when she focused on learning something new, rather than worrying about how she sounded, conversations felt more natural. The real breakthrough came when Maya decided to join the school's art club. She had been thinking about it for months, but had always been too scared to walk into a room full of strangers. After practicing her social skills with Mrs. Chen for several weeks, Maya finally gathered the courage to attend a meeting. The art room was filled with students working on different projects. Maya stood in the doorway, feeling her old anxiety creeping back. But then she remembered how comfortable she had felt in Mrs. Chen's garden when she was focused on caring for the plants, instead of worrying about herself. "Hi," she said to a boy who was painting at an easel near the door. "That's really beautiful. What kind of paint are you using?" The boy, who introduced himself as David, started explaining about acrylic techniques. Maya found herself genuinely interested in his process and asked several follow-up questions. Before she knew it, they had been talking for 20 minutes about different art supplies and techniques. "You should sit with us," David said, gesturing to a table where 3 other students were working on sketch projects. "We're always looking for new people to join our group." Maya's heart raced, but she remembered Mrs. Chen's advice about showing up and caring about others. She introduced herself to the group and discovered that They were all working on a collaborative project for the school's spring exhibition. "Do you want to contribute something?" asked Lisa, a girl with paint-stained fingers and a warm smile. "We're each doing pieces that represent growth and change." Maya thought about her own journey over the past few weeks. "I think I'd like to draw something about gardens," she said, "about how things grow slowly, with care." The group welcomed her idea enthusiastically, and Maya found herself exchanging phone numbers with new classmates for the first time in her life. She couldn't believe how easy it had been once she stopped focusing on her own nervousness and started paying attention to what others were passionate about. But Maya's biggest challenge was still ahead. Mrs. Chen had mentioned that she volunteered at the local animal shelter on weekends, and she invited Maya to join her. Maya loved animals, but the idea of being around even more new people felt overwhelming. "I don't know if I'm ready for that," Maya told Mrs. Chen during one of their garden sessions. The art club was scary enough, and those were people my own age. Mrs. Chen smiled while repotting a small plant. "What if we start with just visiting? You don't have to volunteer right away. You can just see what it's like." The following Saturday, Maya found herself standing outside the animal shelter with Mrs. Chen. The building was smaller than she had expected, with a cheerful sign and the sound of dogs barking in the distance. Maya's stomach was full of butterflies, but she was also curious about the animals inside. The volunteer coordinator, a woman in her 40s named Ms. Rodriguez, greeted them at the front desk. "Are you interested in volunteering?" she asked Maya kindly. "Maybe," Maya said quietly. "I'd like to see what you do here first." Ms. Rodriguez led them on a tour of the facility. Maya saw rows of dog kennels, a cat adoption room, and a special area for injured animals recovering from medical treatment. What struck her most was how gentle and patient all the volunteers were with the animals. "The animals here have often been abandoned or mistreated," Ms. Rodriguez explained. "They need people who can be calm and consistent with them. Some of them are shy and need extra patience to trust humans again." Maya felt an immediate connection to this idea. She understood what it was like to be cautious around new people, to need time to feel safe and comfortable. "Could I try spending time with some of the shyer animals?" Maya asked, surprising herself with her boldness. Ms. Rodriguez's face brightened. "That would be wonderful. We have several cats and dogs who really benefit from quiet, patient interaction." Maya started volunteering at the shelter every other Saturday, alternating with her garden time with Mrs. Chen. She discovered that caring for nervous animals was similar to what she had learned about making friends. It required patience, consistency, and genuine care without expecting immediate results. Her favorite was a small terrier mix named Benny who had been returned to the shelter 3 times because he was too anxious to bond with his previous families. Maya would sit quietly in his kennel, reading a book or drawing while he gradually got comfortable with her presence. After several weeks, Benny began approaching Maya voluntarily, eventually even falling asleep next to her during her visits. Ms. Rodriguez was amazed at the progress. "You have a real gift with the shy ones," she told Maya. "Have you thought about fostering?" Maya had never considered fostering, but the idea intrigued her. When she mentioned it to her parents, they were supportive. "You've been so much happier lately," her mother said. "If you think you're ready for that responsibility, we trust your judgment." Through working at the shelter, Maya met other volunteers who shared her love for animals. She found that having a common purpose made conversation feel natural and meaningful. She started looking forward to her volunteer shifts not just because of the animals, but because of the people she was getting to know. One day, while Maya was helping clean kennels, another volunteer named Alex mentioned that they were starting a youth group for teenage volunteers. "We meet once a week to plan special events for the animals and discuss animal care topics," Alex explained. "Would you be interested in joining?" 6 months earlier, Maya would have immediately said no. But now, after weeks of practicing social skills and building confidence, she found herself nodding. "Yes, I think I'd like that." As Maya walked home from the shelter that day, she reflected on how much her life had changed. She had real friends now, people who shared her interests and values. She had discovered that she was good at working with shy animals, which had given her a sense of purpose she had never felt before. Most importantly, she had learned that making connections with others wasn't about becoming a completely different person. It was about finding her own authentic way to show care and interest in the world around her. 6 months had passed since that awkward dinner conversation, where Maya had asked her sister about bonding with humans. Now, sitting in her bedroom on a Sunday afternoon, Maya hardly recognized the person she used to be. Her room looked different, too. Instead of being a hiding place, it had become a creative space where she worked on art projects and planned activities with her new friends. Her walls were now covered with drawings she had made during her volunteer shifts at the animal shelter, mixed with photos of her and her friends from the art club. On her desk, next to her art supplies, sat a small potted plant that Mrs. Chen had given her to care for on her own. Maya had been successfully keeping it alive for 3 months, which felt like a bigger accomplishment than it probably should have. Maya was working on a charcoal drawing of Benny, the shy terrier from the shelter who had finally been adopted the previous week. She was planning to give the drawing to his new family as a keepsake. The thought made her smile. 6 months ago, she would never have imagined herself creating art for people she barely knew. Her phone buzzed with a text from Alex, her friend from the shelter's youth group. "Hey, are you still coming to movie night at David's house next Friday? Lisa wants to know if you can bring those amazing cookies you made last time." Maya typed back quickly, "Yes, definitely. I'll ask Mrs. Chen to help me make a double batch." She paused before sending, remembering how terrified she used to be of making plans with friends. Now it felt as natural as breathing. The door to her room opened, and Maya looked up to see her 10-year-old cousin Jenny peeking inside. Jenny's family was visiting for the weekend, and Maya had been looking forward to spending time with her cousin, something that would have felt overwhelming just a few months earlier. "Maya," Jenny said quietly, stepping into the room. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," Maya said, setting down her drawing and turning to face Jenny. "What's up?" Jenny sat on the edge of Maya's bed, looking unusually nervous. "I saw you talking to all those people at lunch today. Like, you were laughing and everything. And I heard Mom tell my mom that you have friends now and that you volunteer at an animal shelter." Maya nodded, wondering where this conversation was headed. "Maya, you really bonded with humans?" Jenny asked, her voice filled with the same confusion and wonder that Maya had felt months earlier. "Can I try to?" Maya felt her heart skip a beat. Hearing her own words repeated back to her was like looking in a mirror. That showed her how much she had changed. She remembered the desperation in her own voice when she had asked Priya that same question, the feeling that human connection was some mysterious skill that other people possessed, but she didn't. "What do you mean, Jenny?" Maya asked gently, though she already knew exactly what her cousin meant. "I mean, I see kids at school who are friends with each other, and they make it look so easy. But when I try to talk to them, I don't know what to say. I feel stupid and awkward." Jenny's voice got quieter. "I eat lunch alone most days because I'm scared to ask if I can sit with anyone." Maya's heart ached for her cousin. She recognized the loneliness and frustration in Jenny's words. The feeling of being on the outside looking in at a world that seemed to make sense to everyone else. "Jenny, can I tell you something?" Maya said, moving to sit beside her cousin. On the bed, 6 months ago, I asked my sister Priya the exact same question you just asked me. Jenny's eyes widened. "Really, really? I thought there was something wrong with me because I didn't know how to talk to people. I thought friendship was like some secret code that everyone else knew but me. But you're so good at it now." Jenny said, "I watched you at lunch today. You were joking around with your friends and everything seemed so natural." Maya smiled, thinking about how far she had come. "It wasn't natural at first. I had to learn. Just like learning to ride a bike or do math problems. And I had help." "What kind of help?" Maya thought about how to explain her journey in a way that would make sense to a 10-year-old. "Well, first I had to realize that being quiet and shy isn't a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with people like us, Jenny. We just need to learn different ways to connect with others. Like what? Like asking questions about things you're genuinely curious about. Like finding activities where you can work alongside other people instead of just trying to make conversation out of nowhere. Like being patient with yourself when things feel awkward. Jenny nodded thoughtfully. But what if I say something wrong? What if people think I'm weird? Maya laughed softly. Then you say something wrong, and people might think you're weird. But you know what I learned? Most people are too worried about themselves to judge you as harshly as you think they will. And the people who do judge you harshly probably aren't the kind of people you want to be friends with anyway. Really? Really? Mrs. Chen, she's our neighbor who taught me a lot about friendship. She told me that the best friendships happen when you can be yourself, even if yourself is quiet or awkward sometimes. Jenny seemed to be processing this information. So how do I start? I mean, where do I even begin? Maya thought about her own journey. From those terrifying first interactions at school to the comfortable friendships she had now. What are you interested in, Jenny? What do you like to do? I like reading, and I like animals, and I'm pretty good at drawing. Those are perfect, Maya said excitedly. Does your school have any clubs or activities related to those things? There's a book club that meets during lunch once a week, and there's an after-school art program. That sounds like a great place to start. You'd be around people who already share your interests, so you'd have something to talk about right away. Jenny looked hopeful, but still uncertain. But what if I'm still too scared to talk to them? Maya remembered her own fear when she first joined the art club. Then you listen first, pay attention to what they're discussing. Ask questions about their projects or their favorite books. People love talking about things they're passionate about, and that actually works. It worked for me. I joined the art club at school, and I was terrified. But I started by asking one person about their painting technique, and before I knew it, we were having a real conversation. Jenny smiled for the first time during their conversation. Maybe I could try the book club first. That seems less scary than the art program. That sounds like a perfect plan, Maya said. And Jenny? Don't expect to make best friends immediately. Real friendship takes time to grow. I've been working on this for 6 months, and I'm still learning. Will you help me? Like, can I text you if I get scared or don't know what to say? Maya felt a warm feeling spread through her chest. 6 months ago, she would never have imagined herself in the position of giving advice about social skills. Of course, I'll help you. We can practice conversation starters together before you try the book club. Thanks. Maya, I feel a little less scared now. As Jenny left her room, Maya returned to her drawing but found herself unable to concentrate. She kept thinking about the conversation and how it had felt to be on the other side of the question she had once asked Priya. The most amazing thing was that helping Jenny had made Maya realize how much she had truly changed. She no longer saw human connection as some mysterious ability that other people possessed. She understood now that it was a skill that could be learned and practiced. Just like any other skill, Maya also realized that her quiet, thoughtful nature hadn't been something to overcome. It had been something to work with. She had found her own way to connect with others through shared activities and genuine curiosity rather than trying to be someone she wasn't. Later that evening, Maya found herself in Mrs. Chen's garden, helping with the evening watering routine. That had become such an important part of her weekly schedule. She told Mrs. Chen about her conversation with Jenny. You gave her very good advice, Mrs. Chen said, smiling as she adjusted a tomato plant that had grown significantly taller since Maya's first visit. You've learned that friendship isn't about being perfect or never feeling awkward. It's about being authentic and caring about others. I never thought I'd be the person giving advice about making friends, Maya said, laughing at the irony. That's exactly why you're the right person to help her, Mrs. Chen replied. You understand what it feels like to struggle with these things. Your empathy will help her more than advice from someone who has always found social situations easy. Maya nodded, feeling a sense of pride and purpose that she had never experienced before. She had not only learned to connect with others, but she was now able to help someone else begin their own journey. As she walked home that evening, Maya reflected on the unexpected path her life had taken. 6 months ago, she had been a lonely teenager who watched other people's friendships from her bedroom window. Now she was someone who could offer guidance and support to others facing similar challenges. She had learned that the question, "Can I try to?" wasn't really about asking permission to connect with others. It was about finding the courage to be vulnerable, to admit that you needed help, and to believe that change was possible. Most importantly, Maya had discovered that bonding with humans wasn't about becoming someone else entirely. It was about finding your own authentic way to show care and interest in the world around you.